Confession. What the world spins around. What I remembered. So what's the problem, buddy? He asked me out in the hallway. Your mom's good looking. Your dad makes a lot of money. You got fifth in sectionals as a freshman. What is it? I was sniffling now, trying to get through it. You're ugly, he said thoughtfully. Especially with that messed up nose you earned yourself by trying to grab your brother's nuts. But you can't do nothing about that but get over it. I laughed, even though his joke hadn't been that funny. So, what's up? It all spilled out then. I got you fired. I told my dad. He told Dr. Billings. I didn't understand. I thought you were crazy. I thought I hated you. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Then tears, lots of them. You know, kid, Coach said softly, his hand on my shoulder, the world don't spin around you. What? I said, the world don't revolve around you. Well, actually I said, the world don't spin around you, but it's the same thing, eh? What do you mean? Coach smiled. Look, I didn't get fired because of you, okay? What? Yeah, Coach said, grinning. He seemed so overjoyed at our advance to regionals that nothing could upset him. I ain't no teacher. Hell, I don't know nothing but running, and I make most of what I know about that up as I go. But, he sighed a resigned sigh, I gotta teach a class to be a coach. They stuck me in health, so I show the same movie about dinosaurs over and over, catch a few Z's. I'm a night person, you know. I don't do so good in the morning. He shrugged. Anyway, I got caught sleeping for the third time while I was showing the same dinosaur movie I showed nearly every class, which don't got nothing to do with health, but I figured it was kind of science related, you know. Anyways, I knew it was over after that. Straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. He grinned. It wasn't UK1. Don't you worry about that. So, it hadn't been Dad, and it hadn't been me. And the world, I was shocked and in a really small and weird way disappointed to realize, did not revolve around me. In fact, I didn't truly believe it. I continued to plead my case. Dad called Dr. Billings. About you, I said. Remember when I found you asleep? It was the night before that. I lied. You never told anyone you found me sleeping in the wrestling room, did you? He was smiling. It was as if he hadn't heard me properly. You never told my secret, did you? He had complete faith in me. Faith I didn't deserve. I didn't. Not about that. But listen, I lied. I made up something really bad about you. His face changed then. He lowered his cigar and stared at me. He was waiting. Remember my eye? How it was black? Yeah, he said. I started to hiccup a little. I did that to myself, and I said it was you. I wanted to get you fired, Coach. Coach raised his cigar to his mouth, sucked on it, and blew smoke over his shoulder. He stared at me for a few seconds. He reached toward my face, and I pulled back. I ain't gonna hurt you, he said gently. He touched my face near my eye. It was still a little yellow from the bruise. You did that to yourself to get me canned? Yes, I whispered. Ha, said Coach. And he did say it. He didn't laugh it. He looked about the hallways as if someone might be eavesdropping on us. About this revelation, I ain't exactly sure how to respond, except to say that it makes me feel better somehow. I was confused. How could that make you feel better? Well, the truth is, my favorite thing, besides running a race or watching you guys run a race, is when I am reminded that I ain't the only fuck up in the room, you know? He smiled and rubbed the top of my head. You feel bad about it? About the lie? I sniffed. Yeah? Very. Good. Would you take me for your coach if you could? Absolutely, I said. You'll always be my coach. He smiled a big smile then. That's all I needed to hear. He hugged me then. I was so surprised I barely hugged him back. He shook me gently by my shoulders, affectionately, smiling at the shock on my face. You just pull yourself together, buddy. Get that nose fixed. Be ready to run next Saturday. That's all you gotta do. Stop worrying all the time and stop worrying about me. I'm gonna crash and burn no matter what you do. He laughed. I smiled for the first time that night. I felt as light as the blue smoke floating upwards from the tip of Coach's cigar. We lost at regionals the next week. Overwhelmed and worn down by all we had been through, we ran as poorly as we'd run all year. I don't remember our place. It wasn't worth committing to memory. I remember this. The bus ride home was nearly silent. There was the hum of spinning tires on the road beneath us. I remember the golden brown fields spread out beyond my bus window in the late afternoon sun. How pretty they were. The corn stalks, tattered and 12 feet high just days before, had been mown down and were now barren stubble. As I stared out, head against the cool glass, it almost seemed I could see the curve of the earth in the clear, bright blue distance. It's always been my favorite time of a race day, the ride home. The lungs wrung out, the chest clear, the legs a good sore, perhaps a calf or quad buzzing from a mild strain. The mind is airy and sensory perception is high after your system's been flushed with adrenaline, endorphins, and lactic acid. Even after a bad race, there's a pleasant emptiness that feels like a waking sleep somehow. It's the feeling of completely lacking any desire, as if you've run the need out of yourself. It's what heaven must feel like. As we rode, I remembered. I remembered that first day of practice, how scared I'd been of Slade. I wasn't scared of him anymore. Knowing a person does that. I thought of Slade's father and how I'd come to understand the boy by understanding the man who had raised him. Then I thought of Squid, how I'd hidden in the barn with him on that August morning, and how he never came close to earning that Land Rover, but how he got it anyway. And this made me think of unfairness, not with bitterness in my heart, just the fact of it. How Coach could get fired, how it was inevitable, how no sane person could argue against it, yet how it was still somehow not right or fair. But, as Bowden said all those days ago on the first day of school, the fair was in August. Looking down at my gray sweatshirt, at Coach's 2 inked at the throat, I remembered how important wearing that one was to me, and how I had done it. I remember realizing that it didn't matter to me so much anymore, and how I was glad Slade had earned it one last time in the last race he ever ran. He wore it all that winter at school. I remember how he smiled and nodded at me, a lowly freshman, a bluebird, when I passed him in the hallways. I remembered the respect he gave me, just as Willie Davis had after that first race all those years before. But what I remembered most of all was when I went back into that hotel room on that black October night after confessing myself to my coach, the best coach I ever had. I remember going in there and sitting on that ratty old bed with my teammates, my brother, Bowden, Keene, Slade, Victor, Swart, and Coach himself. All of us on that one bed. I remember those freaks in black and white on that tiny television chanting over and over, "One of us, one of us." And I remember us, a bunch of freaks ourselves, chanting it along with them. Coach's big smile on his face and a tear in his eye. I remember how he chanted it the loudest of all of us. As I rode that big yellow bus back towards home, feeling the beautiful emptiness of autumn fill me up, I thought of what it meant to be a runner, how good it felt to know what I was. I thought of the other things I was: a brother, a son, a coward, a liar, a friend, a rat, an angel and a devil, a victim, an accomplice, a winner and a loser, a convert, a student, a freak, a teammate. I thought of all the things I was, and the list seemed long, but child wasn't on it anymore. My insecurities and fears would return, as they always do. I would, over the next 4 years, lose myself again many times. But for at least an hour on that quiet bus ride home, I was content. I knew what I was, and it was good to be me. The end.